Welcome back. And this morning for our segment on kids and coronavirus, pediatrician Dr. Amin is joining us once again. And this morning we're talking about the news that the FDA could approve the Pfizer COVID-19 shot for kids as young as 12 as early as next week. Dr. Amin, thanks for being with us again as always. Really interested to hear your thoughts on this.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
So first off, I was a little surprised when I heard that it could come as early as next week, because I feel like earlier this spring we were talking that this could come later in the summer months, that it could be approved for children of these ages. What happened that it's happening so suddenly, and what kind of data are we going off of already?
Well, when experts were postulating July as a potential time frame to when the vaccine would be available for children, it was essentially a guess. What needed to be complete in order to receive authorization was that the Pfizer study had to have at least 2 months worth of data in every single one of their almost 2,300 participants after the second dose of the vaccine had been injected. And essentially that happened in March, and they were able to compile their data and submit it in written form to the FDA towards the end of the month. And now the FDA and their panel of experts has had over a month to review that data. And if you think back to the adults, when they received the submission, they actually provided authorization, I think it was maybe 8 to 10 days after receiving it. So in this circumstance, they've actually taken more time to review the study and ensure that the vaccine is, again, safe and effective for this age group as well.
And what do we know, what are we seeing in those study participants as far as efficacy and safety?
Right. The study included 2265 children, and they were divided into 2 arms, obviously one that received both doses of the vaccine and the other that did not. They found 0 cases of infection in the vaccinated arm and 18 cases of infection in the unvaccinated arm. In those who were vaccinated, they actually created more robust antibody levels in comparison to those individuals 16 to 25 years old, and the side effect profile was essentially the same as those 16 to 25 years old.
Okay, so, you know, I know parents are going to be hesitant. Give me your best pitch. If you're talking to someone in your practice, you're talking to a parent who doesn't really feel like they need to give their 12-year-old this shot, why would you encourage them to do so?
Well, first of all, I do believe that the vaccine is safe. We now have almost 250 million doses given here in America, and I think that that safety profile will only increase and become more improved as we apply it to children. But to be quite honest, we all know that COVID-19 does not cause as severe of an illness in children as it does to adults. But it's hard to deny that every single one of our children have not been adversely affected by this pandemic. And if we want to give our children back the lives that they deserve with full-time in-person school, without masks, extracurricular sports and activities, school field trips, award ceremonies, then I really feel that the children have to be part of the equation and receive a vaccine. Because every time a person gets a vaccine, it creates a dead end for this virus. The virus cannot replicate, it cannot mutate, it cannot be spread to any significant degree from a person who is vaccinated. So the more dead ends that we create, the less transmission we have. And the less transmission that we have, the less restrictions that we have. And I think it's also important to remember that children are not naturally immune to this virus. They can't become sick. We've had over 500 pediatric deaths in America alone since the pandemic began, not to mention the cases of MIS-C or long COVID. And while underlying medical problems do definitely play a role in how severely ill children can become with COVID-19, obesity is one of those risk factors. And unfortunately, we have a lot of children who struggle with obesity. And this past year of the pandemic has made that much worse for several children.
All right, Dr. Amin.
Last but not least, I think we've all seen what's happened in India. So these variants need to come under control. And vaccination is one way in which we can do that. whether we like it or not, our children, particularly 12 and older, are going to be reservoirs as well as vectors of the virus.
All right, Dr. Amin, we are out of time, but we thank you so much for weighing in on this morning. We appreciate it. And again, next week is when we could hear that approval from the FDA. It has not happened yet. Thank you very much. We'll be right back.